the average gain in the S&P is about 40% over the last 3 years, or a little over 3 years, or about March of 2020. Our portfolio that I show you guys each month is up about 2.5 to 3x. So it's about 200% or so over that same time period. And this is what I talk about in our portfolio allocation monthly newsletter, which probably a year from now or so we'll probably have behind a paywall, because there are a lot of things I want to say that I can't say on YouTube that we're doing now. I'm probably gonna set up a BitChute that we're doing now on Rumble as well. So go to Rumble, on our Substack, stuff like that. But we're gonna be talking more probably behind a paywall, maybe $100 a year, something like that, $10 a month. That way I can say what I want to say, and then we can have a community together, and then actually have a Discord or stuff like that, Slack, where we can actually communicate and bounce stuff off of it and actually have a real community. But I just want to touch on basically what we have done, and you can, to see the actual breakdown, you can go to the portfolio, go to the blog link, the Substack at the bottom of the description here, go to the Substack, and I just posted one just for August in the last couple of days and had some movement there, some changes in our portfolio. But the average person is locked into 401ks, locked into pensions, endowment type stuff, whatever it might be. And the average person's not in private equity or hedge funds and stuff like that, but they're locked into S&P somehow, S&P, Dow, things like that. The stock market, the paper markets, bonds, stocks, equities, and debt. So, why is the average person only around 40% up, or why is the market around 40% up and we're up 200%? It's because we focus on bearer instruments. We focus on assets that we can control, that are outside the system, that hedge. Obviously, one of the biggest things we talk about here all the time is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is from its low, about 3,500, and it's now at 30,000 in the last 3 years. So that's a 10x jump. Now, I didn't buy my entire, I was dollar cost averaging for years, for a number of years before that. So I wasn't buying massive chunks at that time. I was actually buying silver a little bit at that time too. And that was right when my mindset started switching, about August. So exactly 3 years ago, when Michael Saylor ironically jumped in, that's when my mind started really switching to, oh my, this is really just Bitcoin only. I don't mean like Bitcoin versus crypto, crypto versus Bitcoin, because those are two completely separate things. I mean like Bitcoin versus everything. Bitcoin over gold, Bitcoin over real estate, Bitcoin over whatever. That's the difference. That's the big mindset shift. So I was a little bit late. I bought the dip in March of 2020, but I was a little bit late to like really pouring in more than I should have. I probably poured a little bit more silver into silver at that time than I did into Bitcoin, unfortunately. But I can't complain at all. We're still up 200%, about 3x our net worth since then. And again, we've, bought real estate, we've raised money, refinanced out, infinite returns on the real estate we've bought, a handful of properties. But that's not the big thing. Again, the big thing is Bitcoin. Again, silver and gold too is up a fair amount since then as well. Probably, I don't even know, it might be 20 or 40%, somewhere around there. So big gains there. But again, Bitcoin is the big driver. Our cash has gone down in value because they printed, 40-50% of all cash that has existed since the beginning of a country just in the last 3 years. So if you're holding cash, you got poorer and poorer and poorer because it's a liability. It's actually a liability on your balance sheet, not an asset. So people are saving it like it's an asset, trying to save and get ahead, but they're actually getting poorer because now eggs are now $5 a carton or $3 a carton instead of 30 cents a carton or 50 cents a carton. So now it's 10x. And did you get a 10x bump in pay? Did your net worth go up 10x since the last 3 years? No, it didn't. Of course, ours didn't. Our net worth is up 3x. So if you're in one asset class, which is most people, this is the point of this, and you're only up 40%. And again, a lot of people aren't even invested. That's the sad part, right? Or there's people in trading. And this is where you really get burned, right? They're in there trading, they're trying to like sell out, they're maybe taking stuff out of their 401k, and they're getting hit with a 10% penalty, early distribution basically, and they're trading, so they're getting fees on capital gains, and they're trying to trade in and out, and they're actually losing, they're actually behind. Maybe they're up a couple percent, but some people, probably a lot of people are negative. And then you're really negative if you put in adjusted, inflation adjusted, because inflation, those are just nominal returns, just the pure numbers. But if you're measuring inflation as well, most people are probably zero. They're probably somewhere around zero, maybe up a little bit, 5-10%, maybe down 5-10%. So let's say zero. You're maybe treading water, or you're poor a lot. So it's, how do you stay ahead? And this is why, again, I don't talk about price much at all. This is kind of a Bitcoin price video in a way, but I don't talk about it very much at all. If you realize, go back, last 100 videos, I don't talk about about Bitcoin price. I don't, the fiat price, because it's not that important to me, quite honestly. It's the least interesting aspect of Bitcoin. It's still a huge aspect of Bitcoin, because that's what draws people in the most, probably, even more than like Canadian truckers getting censored and getting your accounts frozen. The biggest thing is the gains. People want the gains, right? They want those gains. So that's the biggest factor in Bitcoin adoption, but it's the least interesting aspect to me. The most interesting aspect is the self-custody, being my own bank, or the censorship resistance. It's the immutability. It's being able to give property rights and wealth and freedom to 8 billion citizens, anyone with an internet connection. I mean, on and on and on, right? Those are the most interesting aspects to me. But the price, again, is what draws people in. So that was the biggest catalyst. That's the biggest driver. So the real estate helped us a bit. We have minimal stocks, so those went up, obviously, a bit, as we just talked about. No bonds. I won't buy bonds because I don't believe in bonds. The bonds I had, I found a bunch of bonds I had when I was a child. I sold those in 2020 or 2021, whenever it was like at the literal peak of the bond market. I sold them, got rid of them. Those were only a handful of bonds I had, because it's bondage, it's slavery. I don't believe in the slave trade, and I don't want to be a part of it. So I'm not going to put myself in bondage. I'm not going to put my children in bondage. And I'm not going to buy bonds, because by buying a bond, you're guaranteeing future taxation of yourself and your children, and or inflation of the currency. So you're getting taxed in one possibly two ways, right? That's how the currency system will work. That's why all fiat goes to zero, because it's backed by nothing. So the governments have to print more and more currency over time. This is how we know Bitcoin will go up, guaranteed over time in fiat price, because the governments have to print currency. The debt ceiling's worthless. There's no point to even have a debt ceiling. They have to print more and more and more every single day just to keep the game going, keep the Ponzi going. You can't taper a Ponzi, as Max Kaiser says. So you have to keep printing, meaning every hard asset will keep going up in dollar price as the dollar falls in value. That's what is so important to understand. That is why we have gained so much in our net worth over the last 3 years, because we've chosen to be outside of the dollar, outside of stocks. Again, gold and silver, real estate, Bitcoin being the biggest things, and holding some cash, a small percent, I think 1% in stocks for our portfolio. And again, if you want to see the full breakdown, the pie chart and everything, go to the bottom of the description. You see the link there. So please go check that out. But that's the juxtaposition. That's the contrast. If you were holding what the financial planners, what CNBC, what politicians, bankers tell you to do, in a CD, hold it in my bank, have a 401k, a 529, all this garbage, completely garbage. The guy who created the 401k, literally, I've seen him on many interviews say, I didn't create the 401k for the average person. This isn't a retirement plan. This is not how this works. So that should tell you all you need to know, right? That should tell you everything you need to know. And please go check that link out in the blog at the bottom of the Substack. It's going to tell you everything we're doing and how I'm thinking about things, how I'm thinking about our portfolio. It will eventually be a paid thing. So please go check it out while it's still there and it's free. And again, I don't want to sit here and talk about price. That's not my point. I don't want to talk about that. It doesn't make me feel good, nothing. But at the end of the day, money talks, and we have to, I have to show sometimes, again, as well. It's a vector to show that I know what I'm talking about as well. Yeah, quite honestly, this is another way to show, hey, I was very successful in athletics, playing professional sports, successful in business and investing, buying real estate, raising money, and here I am investing, understanding the way of the world and where trends are going and what's happening. And so I have to show that off, because it's a feather in my cap to say, hey, I do know at least partially what I'm talking about. So please come listen to what I have to say and prove me wrong. If there's something there, and I love the comments that we get here a lot too, people saying, giving feedback, questioning with boldness, things like that. We have to keep finding answers. And if I'm proven wrong, and I've done this many times in my life, the Patriot Act, one of those things, I was for the Patriot Act 20 years ago. Now I'm against it. I can change. I'm moldable. I'm adaptable. I will change. I have my foundational values and ethics, but I can change. I will change if presented the correct information. So I appreciate you being here. Please share this out, because the algorithm hates truth. Question everything in boldness, even the existence of God himself. Trust but verify. Did I say thanks for coming to TED Talk? I don't know if I did. Anyway, this is not financial advice. It's freedom advice. I look forward to seeing you on the next one.